Okay, Joe, nice to meet you. I'm Sam from New Zealand. How you doing?
How's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm good. First off, mate, I watched your film last night. It's fucking nuts, and I just loved it. It's that classic grindhouse gore fest. The first question I have to ask you is like, where did the idea come for Christmas Bloody Christmas? Because this was just manic, and I loved it. So where'd the inspiration come?
Well, my favorite movie of all time is Terminator. So like, I always wanted to make a killer robot movie, and I also love
Nice, yeah, yeah,
the aesthetic of like Santa, like an evil Santa, and I love the aesthetic of Christmas on film. And I
yeah.
always thought that remaking Silent Night Deadly Night would that's like the best possible movie to remake because the iconography is great. The actual movie, not so much, but there's a lot of things about it that are good. It's just not the movie you hoped it would be. So, right before the pandemic, I was actually approached by the rights holders of Silent Night Deadly Night asking for a
Yeah.
pitch on a remake, and I usually don't do that. Um, but I was like, fuck, I got to come up with a goddamn idea. It's gonna be, but I got to, twist it on its head. What can I do? So I was trying to rack my brain thinking of a way to turn it on its head, and I was like, in the middle of the night, I'm like, well, what if it's fucking the Terminator, but it's Silent Night with the Terminator in it? And I got super excited,
Yeah.
and I started helping through a treatment, and I was like, there's no way they're gonna turn this down. They're gonna fucking love it. And then they were like, what the fuck is this? This isn't Silent Night Dead. Fans are gonna be pissed off, and I'm like, but I am the goddamn fan base. I don't care. Nobody cares about the story. I'm telling them, I'm the fucking fan base. So they didn't
Yeah.
want to make it, and then COVID happened, and I was sitting around, and I was like, you know what? They were right. It's not Silent Night Deadly Night. This is an original fucking idea that they didn't pay me. So I wrote the script, and what I pitched them was like it was beat for beat the fucking movie that you saw. So I wrote it. I just expanded to a script, and it got financed like faster than any movie I've made before for more money
Nice.
than I was gonna have as a budget for Silent Night Deadly Night as a remake. And it's like, thank God, that it's an original movie with a bigger budget. But yeah, it actually was like it stemmed from just me trying to come up with the coolest idea possible for a remake of Silent Night Deadly Night, and then coming up with my own original movie. So it all worked out. And the remake still isn't out. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing over there.
Maybe get a chance to like get your remake idea as well. But I think you just hit it out of the park with Christmas Bloody Christmas, and that was one thing I liked, the production detail of it. Like it's got a lot of neon. I mean, obviously you got your sort of like neon lit backgrounds. Obviously you're a fan of that sort of aesthetic, and I really like that because it added a sort of a 1980s sort of grunge aesthetic kind of grindhouse vibe to it. I mean, I'm just curious to sort of hear about your influences. Obviously, you said Terminator is your favorite film of all time. I've got to say I'm a big Schwarzenegger fan myself, and I was sort of raised on Terminator and T2. Like until when like you're 5 years old, you watch The Lion King, and suddenly you're watching Terminator. But just your influences, I'm just curious to sort of hear what you like and how that informed this film.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of that really gnarly 70s and 80s style movie. And that's kind of like it lend itself to my original aesthetic, not original aesthetic, but like the aesthetic I've kind of grown with, a lot of neon and a lot of kind of darkness and like in the frame. I mean, like darkness in the, in the atmosphere of the movie. I love shooting on 16 millimeter. So this was shot on anamorphic 16 millimeter. So
Yeah,
I
nice.
think it's just those things that came together to kind of make some of my earlier movies I just brought along to this. So it was like, what if I made a really sleazy, serious, but dark and kind of well technically crafted, Santa slasher movie. I'm a big fan of like Alexandra Aja's early stuff where I feel like there's kind of a mainstream sensibility to it, but it is like impeccable filmmaking that also has a lot of style. I'm a big fan of how movies used to be made, shot on film with practical effects. The only digital
Yep.
effects we have in this movie are a couple of shots of wire removal. But
Yep.
other than that, all the snow is practical. We had snow machines running. We built a fucking robot. We had fog machines everywhere. We shot on film, and it's like that's just the way that movies should be made because everything else is going backwards in technology. There's no other art form really or industry that's going backwards. Like digital cameras are factually and scientifically inferior to film. CG, ask anybody, it is inferior because it doesn't look as good. Like so why are we going backwards in this art form instead of like so it's I'm kind of just going back to the way that I always knew movies to be made, and that kind of just informs my aesthetic is like what can we do in camera, what can we do for real, what can I theoretically direct in front of me, and I had a couple $1 million to do this, which a lot of people are like that's no money, that's no money. And a lot of in America anyway, a lot of American indies shoot for a couple $1 million and you stick three people in a house and there's no production design, and me, I'm like $2 million, man. I'm gonna fucking blow up some cars. I'm gonna build a goddamn robot. Let's save the blizzard. Let's shoot a film. And it's like, that's a lot of fucking money to kind of do. I like to just push those capabilities, push the envelope on that stuff on what cool filmmaking tricks can I would do or try out or experiment with or fuck around, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of all comes from that, like my influence of just getting excited about filmmaking, getting excited about technique, getting excited about older films, and then kind of cramming it all, you know, pulling
Yeah.
from everywhere and kind of just a way of making movies, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, watching this to me, it really felt sort of like, a classic kind of trauma film where you had, the real, like, just those 80s aesthetics. And for me, what I love was the practical, man. Like, and probably, you'll understand right at the end, just when you're watching it and you're watching, Tori and everything, and just that final shot. I don't want to spoil it, but just the last little bit, the fingers moment, shall we say, like,
Yeah.
that was what really got me. And it all is practical. And I love that you invested in the practical stuff because it just sort of it just gives it that edge and the visceral action, and you're shocked and you're like, oh shit, this happened, and like the kills and everything. I mean, and so you're a big fan of practical, but I mean, obviously, I mean, you've sort of already answered this, but your intention is to really push practical as much as possible to bring out the gore factor in this film.
Uh, just all around, like push the practical, like I said, I always wanted to make a killer robot movie. I also always wanted to make a werewolf movie. So like for me and my effects team, who's I've worked with on all my movies almost, like working with an animatronic for the first time, we're learning how to do that stuff because nobody else is doing that stuff. You don't really learn, them as an effects team. They did the Hellraiser remake, the Cenobites and that, and they've never even done animatronics before. So it's like, how can we play around with animatronics? Like, let's push this envelope here. Let's, work with atmospheric effects. Let's work with, use new kinds of film stock with new kinds of LED lights. And like, how do this react? Like, how low of light can you shoot in? Stuff that if we still use these things, like people would have been perfecting and, bringing it state of the art. Like if animatronics were treated like CG and we had the best artists in the world to continue to push the envelope of animatronics, where would they be now? You look at somewhere
Yeah,
like Disney World in fucking Japan or Shanghai, and they've got like the Avatar and the Beauty and the Beast, right? And like there's fucking animatronics walking around, like this, the
yeah,
Navi
yeah,
from the
yeah.
Avatar, it's like walking around and it's a fucking robot. And it's like this looks better than the Avatar movie. Like, how are we not using animatronics like this for movies? Because we're not allowed to push that envelope or push that or make state-of-the-art effects. So I'm, in my little indie world, I'm trying to like, I want to do that. What kind of, we built up the effects people use 3D printing for a lot of the animatronic stuff for the robot build, which is something that didn't exist when animatronics were the norm. Like, what are the new technologies that we can use to actually make animatronics like a feasible thing that even if it's not moving as fluid as CG would, the audience is going to like it a lot more because a robot wouldn't be fucking moving fluid. It's a fucking robot. So
Yeah.
let's actually have it moving on set, and that's going to be scary. So yeah, when I say like pushing the envelope of like that stuff, like that's what I mean. Like I'm all these techniques of filmmaking that are lost that would be incredible now. And you look in other industries like theme parks and stuff like that, and how they're actually pushing that envelope. I just wish movies still had that shit. It's obnoxious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do get you. And I think just watching this film, the practical, really, especially for the gore factor for me, just it shocked me, because you're so used to seeing like, bullet hits that, there's no squibs or anything like that. And I really got the sort of the grittiness and the sort of reality of the practical. And that's what I really liked about this. There was this sort of practical underground kind of 1980s vibe to it. And I just really loved it. But one thing I have to ask is working with Riley, she was just fantastic in this film. I absolutely loved her character as Tori. She was just sort of this punk rock, chick who was just going for it. And I mean, why did you want to cast her in the lead role? Because I thought she was fantastic.
The RLJ and Shudder, the financial distributors in the States and overseas and whatnot, they were very good partners, and they let me make the movie without being cast contingent. So I didn't have to like, offer it to a name or try to get this. I could legitimately find the best person for the role. So I cast a lot of the subsequent, like a lot of the supporting roles with friends and actors I've worked with before. But for the two leads, I really wanted to find somebody new or just find somebody who inhabited the character. So I got a really great casting director, Amy Renee, and she, went out there and found tons and tons of people. And I just got to watch Riley like read these monologues about Pet Sematary 2 or Ben Hagar and see, or I get to see a lot of people do that, but Riley, like, I was like, holy shit, like she's saying stuff that I would say. A lot of the dialogue is arguments I've had with my friends, and she's saying this with such passion. Like, I love Pet Sematary 2, but this chick is going to convince people that Pet Sematary 2 is the, how fucking good I think it is. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a couple of other people in the ring that were really good, but once I kind of went through the second wave and I got to work with them, I realized how good she was, because I also like I have very specific things on page, like the Pet Sematary 2 monologue that goes in, like you have to hit certain beats, but I love riffing with actors, and I love when
Yep.
they can kind of inhabit the character and use my beat sheet almost, or like the beat sheet of the dialogue, and we can organically grow it. So when I was still in the auditioning process and I started riffing with her, she was riffing stuff that I would have written. Like, and she didn't even know me. This is our second or third time on the talking or trying to go over the role, and she would be saying stuff that I would write, and like it just sounded so natural coming from her. And then the shocking thing was
100%.
once I cast her, she has never seen Pet Sematary. She doesn't listen to metal music. She doesn't watch any of these movies. So like the fact that she was able to give that much passion into these things and make me believe she was a true fan when she in fact wasn't, I was like, yeah, this, this is the perfect person for the role. And also she's technically playing like a version of me, so I needed to make sure that the casting was very on point. And I think she realized that. So we had like an 8-week shoot, and the more that she hung out with me, because we were out, hanging out every day, obviously shooting the movie, she kind of sponged my personality that she then
Yeah.
was able to put into the movie. And also it was kind of a nightmare because we shot a lot of the big action scenes first or earlier in the schedule. So almost all the dialogue from the first 25 minutes we shot at the back half of the schedule after we had all been working together and were more comfortable. So like she was able to bring that element of like sponging off of me and my personality into the scenes where we're actually kind of blossoming her personality. So at first I was pissed we had to do so much fucking action up front. But then like as afterwards, it's like, okay, this works out because now instead of starting the sequence and it's kind of rusty trying to get along, like it worked so fucking well. So yeah, that's just, she's a working actress, but being able to know, literally just pick from hundreds and hundreds of people, like that's why, she's also able to find the perfect person. And that's a testament to my producers or financiers letting me do that. Not a lot of people can do that on a budget like this. You always got to have a name.
Yeah, no, she was fantastic, and especially I just thought her performance was so naturalistic, and just her inhabiting this character and hearing that, as you said, she picked it up from you, and this is not her personality in the real world. I was very impressed, so absolutely loved her, and I hope to see a lot more pictures as well. I thought she was fantastic. I'm just looking at the time because I'm conscious of time, but I mean, I guess sort of what are your future plans with Shudder? Like, do you have any more ideas you want to be working on? Like, obviously you've done your sort of killer robot movie, which is a dream of yours and a passion project, but is there any kind of new genre you want to try? Do you want to maybe do something that's maybe sort of more historical, or do you want to go more into science fiction or more into the horror like genre? Because I mean, the horror genre, you can sort of take any kind of other genre and do a sub genre on it. Like you could do horror romance or horror drama or anything like that. But is there a sort of idea that you're working on?
I got a few things I'm working on. It really kind of depends on how this does, because one of them is a bigger budget. Like I said, werewolf movie is something I really want to do. And then I have some smaller scale ones I'd really love to do. Like there's a satanic snuff cult movie that I'd love to do. I really, really want to do a sequel to this. I really want to do an anthology movie where there's one director, like, I'll direct everything, which is kind of a hard form. So it really just depends how this movie does. I'm shooting a movie now, that's been shooting for fucking 2 years. It was a COVID movie that was supposed to be very simple and quick, but shooting's been going on forever. And then we got the Christmas movie and had to shelve it for a year, but we're finishing it up now. So it's like a psychotronic alien abduction, hallucination, weird, crazy mind melt, Gaspar Noé doing brain damage type movie. So that'll be the next thing that comes out. But also to answer your question about the horror genre, I'm like through and through a very hardcore horror fan. So I think that I have no plans to leave the genre. Like I love science fiction, I love action, but I think if anything, I would just incorporate them into horror, like how there are action elements in this, car chases. But it's always kind of seeped in horror, at least for the foreseeable future. There's a lot of stuff in the genre I still want to do before I frolic off into other areas.
Nice. Well, and I think as you're saying, like a Gaspar Noé film on like steroids or something like that. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of ways you can sort of take things in the horror genre. So, and obviously seeing Christmas Bloody Christmas, I know I'm excited to see what you do next. So and hearing that you want to do a werewolf movie, which I love the werewolf genre. And seeing your style applied to that, I'd be very keen to see it. I'd also love it if you did a vampire film, because like and not like a Twilight sucky vampire film, but like a really like get in there, teeth in the jugular vampire film. So I'd be very keen for you to do something like that. But again, man,
I made a vampire movie.
Yeah,
called Bliss. Shot on 16 millimeter. It's takes place in the LA metal scene. And it's a very psychedelic, hard R, sleazy, sex filled, grungy, maniac style exploitation. That's the Christmas and Bliss are my favorite movies I've made, so you definitely should check out Bliss. It's on Shudder. It should be over there.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out, man.
It should be Shudder over in New Zealand, but yeah,
definitely check it out. Well, then you just get, then you got to bookend it with the werewolf man, and we just get some of the like the jaws going for it. That'll be awesome. But again, thanks, sir. Really awesome to meet you. I loved Christmas Bloody Christmas. It was a riot. And again, I wish you all success, and look forward to seeing what you do next.
Well, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, mate.
The U.S. Defense Department has spent over $1 trillion on the most cutting-edge robot technology. Introducing RoboSanta Plus for the upcoming holiday season.
What are you gonna do this fine Christmas Eve?
I was potentially gonna go meet up with a dude. I've blown him off twice already, so.
Come on, get a drink with your old pal, Robbie.
What's up with you two?
Just grabbing a drink.
I talk her out of some Tinder trash.
You didn't talk me out of anything.
Christmas!
Bah humbug.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
New animatronic state-of-the-art Santa Claus, featured at our own TW Bunkers, is now the subject of an international recall.
Santa?
What? This guy killed the kid next door!
Oh, shit!
You hear that?
Or what?
You need to give me a gun.
What is that?
It's him.
Oh, Santa Claus?
Yeah, it's fucking
Santa
Claus.
Claus!
Have you heard from the boys down at the scene yet?
They're still down there counting bodies.